Fargo City Commission meeting. Before we begin the meeting, I'd ask everyone in the room to please silence their cell phones. And I'd also call to your attention that Commissioner George is with us this evening by Zoom. With that, please join me in a Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The next order of business is to approve the order of the agenda.
Mr. Mayor, I would like
Commissioner Olson.
I would like to have item D from the consent agenda moved to the regular agenda, please.
All right.
For further discussion. With that change, I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
Is there a second, please?
Second.
Commissioner Anderson seconds. Been moved and seconded to approve the order of the to approve the consent agenda, with the exception of item D being removed and moved into the regular agenda. Is there any discussion?
We're just approving the order of the agenda.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
So again, to approve the order of the agenda, move item D from the consent agenda to the regular agenda. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried. Item D is the approval of the minutes of April 17th, 2023. They're on pages 3 through 5 in the packet. It has been distributed.
Motion to approve.
Thank you, Commissioner Olson. Is there a second?
Second.
Commissioner Simmons seconds. Been moved and seconded to approve the minutes of April 17th as distributed. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried. Item E is the building permit report. It has been distributed. It is in your packets. It's on pages 6 through 9.
I'll make the motion to approve.
Thank you, Commissioner Olson. Is there a second, please?
Second.
Commissioner Anderson seconds. Been moved and seconded to approve the building permits as distributed, pages 6 through 9 in the packet. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried. Next order of business is, again, is our consent agenda. We have items A through
No, we did that.
J, K, L, through L, with the removal of item D into the regular agenda. So, and it is on pages, starting on page 10 and ending on page 60.
Make a motion to approve with the change.
Thank you, Commissioner Simmons. It's been moved to approve the consent agenda with the amendment of moving item D. Is there a second?
Second.
Commissioner Anderson seconds. Been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda as distributed, items A through L, with the amendment. Is there any further discussion?
Mr. Mayor.
Please.
Where will you put item D?
Item D will be, will now be 11C,
10 and a half?
10 and a half, somewhere in there. There you go, 10.5. We'll move it right there. Good question. Thank you, Commissioner. Have we voted on the consent agenda?
Yes.
I broke my train of thought. All right,
Sorry.
we're done. All right, good. Next order of business is to move on to the regular agenda. The first item,
We didn't actually vote, did we? We just had discussion on it.
that's what I thought.
Didn't vote. I apologize for that. I thought we voted.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? My apologies.
My fault. Sorry.
Moving on to the regular agenda. Item number 1 is I will open the Board of Equalization for the purpose of approval of the April 11th and April 17th minutes. So with that, we close the regular agenda of the commission meeting, and we open the Board of Equalization. The Board of Equalization is made up of the city commissioners. So at this time, we close the regular agenda, move into an open Board of Equalization. Commissioners, the purpose of this part of the meeting is to approve the minutes of April 11th and April 17th.
Make a motion to approve?
Thank you, Commissioner Simmons. Is there a second?
Second.
Commissioner Olson seconds. Been moved and seconded that the Board of Equalization approve the minutes of April 11th and April 17th. Is there any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye, please.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. We close the Board of Equalization meeting, and we are now back into the regular agenda. We are on item number 2, which is a public hearing in the first reading of zoning ordinance amendments to the Title 4 of the city ordinance pertaining to site plan review. Lisa Sankey, planner for the city of West Fargo. It's on pages 62 to 72 in the packet. Good evening. Welcome.
Thank you. The purpose of the proposed amendments is to modify and clarify zoning regulations relating to site and building plan review within the overlay district, and for some general clerical corrections. In 2015, the CM, Heavy Commercial Light Industrial zoning district, was eliminated and divided into 2 separate zoning districts. Within Title IV, there are some references to the CM district. This text amendment would clean up the language. Within the corridor overlay and interstate corridor overlay district, there is a requirement for additional site and building plan review and approval by the planning and zoning and city commissions prior to obtaining a building permit. Being there are already specific development requirements regarding setbacks, lot coverage, building construction standards, building materials, etc., staff is recommending eliminating that section of the ordinance requiring review and approval by the planning and zoning commissions and city commissions prior to obtaining a building permit. The proposed amendments do not make any major substantive changes to the existing ordinances and are consistent with the comprehensive plan. It is recommended that the city approve the first reading on the proposed zoning ordinance amendments on the basis they are consistent with the city ordinances and comprehensive plan. This is a public hearing. I'm available to answer any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Sankey. Questions, commissioners? Again, we are acting on the first reading of this zoning ordinance amendment. Any questions?
Make a motion to put on second reading?
Thank you. Commissioner Simmons moves to approve the first reading and move it forward for the zoning ordinance amendment to Title IV of the city ordinances. Is there a second?
We have to move it into a public hearing first.
Oh, okay. I'm having a really good evening, aren't I?
It's Monday.
Yeah. We close the regular agenda and we move into the public hearing. Is there anyone that would like to speak about this change, this amendment change to Title IV of the city ordinances pertaining to the site plan review? Anyone from the public? Is there anyone from the public that would like to speak on item number 2 regarding the first reading of zoning ordinance amendments to Title IV of the city ordinances? Is there anyone from the public that would like to speak to this item? Hearing none, the public hearing is closed. We now move into, again, action. So Commissioner Simmons, you made the motion to approve the first reading. Is there a second?
Second.
Commissioner Olson seconds. Been moved and seconded to approve the first reading of the zoning ordinance and move it forward. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Item number 3 is a request for approval of the enterprise grant for cookie crumbs. Casey Sanders Berglund, Economic Development Director for the City of West Fargo, is on pages 73 to 75 in the packet. Good evening and welcome.
Good evening, Commission President Dardis, Commissioners. Tonight, I have the applicant for Cookie Crumbs coming forward with a request for an enterprise grant. As you're probably aware, this business is already in existence in our downtown mixed-use area, and she has been in business approximately a year. Currently, she is looking to expand her not expand her space, excuse me, but expand her opportunities there. As she's been doing business for about a year, she's had a chance to assess what the customer base, what the residents might be interested in, and is looking to renovate her space so that she can move her short-term 5-year goals up and include a larger bakery menu as well as ice cream, scoop ice cream, I guess you would call it, and then continue her custom cookie baking. So her application was brought forward to the Economic Development Advisory Committee, in which it received unanimous support with an additional recommendation of 11% due to inflation. So in the packet, you can see the financial analysis. Her total project is estimated to be $29,867,100, excuse me. And then through the program, she would receive 50% of that. With the additional 11%, she would receive $16,576.19. And then I just remind the commission that this program comes from the Economic Development Sales Tax dollars and is only given out to the business as items are purchased and reimbursed. So with that, the owner, Katie, is here as well to answer any specific questions that you might have about the renovation.
Thank you. Questions, commissioners? Commissioner Anderson.
I just want to say something. I'm excited to see this growth. I think it'll be a good addition to downtown and something I think my family is going to be looking forward to go to. So looking forward to it. So,
Commissioner, you have something?
I'll make a
Anyone
motion
else?
I'll make a motion to approve the grant, if that's all the questions.
Thank you, Commissioner Simmons. Is there a second, please?
second.
Commissioner Anderson seconds. Been moved and seconded to approve this enterprise grant for cookie crumbs as presented this evening. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you, Ms. Berglund. Item number 4 is a child care improvement grants approval. Again, we call on Casey Sanders Berglund, Economic Development Director for the City of West Fargo. It's on pages 76 to 78 of the packet.
Thank you, Commission President Dardis. Commissioners, quickly, I wanted to offer an update since approving this childcare program just a couple months ago. We had a total of 28 applications in a very short time frame. So going through all of those applications, I noticed very quickly that a lot of the requests were generally the same, but the stories behind those requests oftentimes were very different. And then just to kind of break down some of those numbers, we had one application choose to pass on moving forward for the grant, just because it is a very public and formal process. They decided with that information to step back. And so just wanting to make sure I'm very forward with what that looks like. We had 8 school-age center applications, 4 early learning centers, 2 group childcare centers, and then 13 in-home providers that applied. In summation, that would be 1,292 childcare slots represented based on all of the applicants in this round of applications. If all of the childcare proposals that have come forward in these 27 applications are approved at their modified and requested dollars as I've gone through some of the applications and made some adjustments, the total would be $331,868.42. Knowing that we put a cap on this program at $1 million, the balance would stand after that at $668,132.58. And that's, of course, assuming that all applications at this point moved forward with also not only their approval, but their reimbursement process as well, similar to the enterprise grant. So, and then just a side note as well, because this program has a goal of increasing capacity, one of the notes that I wanted to make is that potentially in some of the applications we'll review briefly, with children under the age of 5, we have the potential to see 45 additional childcare spots. So some childcare providers currently have the capacity as far as licensure, but they don't have the capacity to bring those children actually on. And so those are some of the things we'll be talking about tonight. In addition, some of the school age sites that we'll talk about, they've maybe set a cap as far as how many students they'll accept, but being able to have some of this grant funding, we would be able to see an additional increase in openings throughout the summer and potentially in the fall. So with that, I'd just like to move on. I have 4 applications to review tonight. Any application that is $20,000 or more goes through the Economic Development Advisory Committee and then has a recommendation to move to the City Commission. So the first one is the Summit. And this provider is currently operating out of a church. They're licensed for 75 children, but currently they have 22 children participating. So they have the potential in the next short while to increase by potentially 53 children. The expected, the space that they have is available and needs some upgrades. They've held off on renovating the space just due to, quite honestly, budget and funding. This requested grant focuses on flooring updates and upgrades, equipment, as well as they would like to have 2 doors they have 2 doors that they'd like to install safety security fobs. So with reviewing this grant, they received a score of 14 out of 15 on our priorities rubric, and a recommendation from the EDAC to the City Commission at the requested dollar amount of $49,998. Jonathan is here tonight representing the Summit. If you have any questions, I'd ask him to join me.
Thank you. Commissioner Olson.
Question for you, Casey. That information is not in our packet.
This is,
No. The ones for the three big dollar ones, as we want to call them, they're not in our packet.
okay. Well, they should be in your packet, so I can give you a little bit more information. Let's see, what else would, because I have all of their eligibility, unless, Emily, you want to look and see if you have that information, you can email that to them. Because each application comes with an eligible worksheet list where each project includes items that are included on their facility or capital expense, equipment, supplies, and safety. So specifically, this applicant has most of their items noted in facility and capital expense, as well as equipment and supplies. In addition, all except for, I believe, 1 item, looks like 2 items, are listed as licensing or health code required items that they would need. So essentially, a little bit of the story around this organization. They had a separate childcare center that was renting this space, has decided to move out of that space, and then as a church congregation, they decided to now operate in this space, leaving the flooring, which was previously used, damaged, if you will. And so before accepting additional children or expanding to add capacity there, they would basically need to update that flooring and then get some specific equipment in order to expand the number of people they actually accept versus are licensed for. Were you able to find that?
How many children, Casey, are in there?
It should be several pages.
Yeah, I don't have, is it supposed to be in there, Emily?
Yeah.
I don't see the Summit, do you? No, but
Yeah, and it's more like 14 pages.
I do see that information in the draft version of the meeting tonight.
I've read it, but it was in the draft version.
Okay.
So, quick question. All these applicants, have you or someone else actually went to the sites and observed what they're applying for?
I've not physically driven or gone to every site, no.
Okay. And what is the policy going to be to follow up that the purchases that are made are as outlined here in their applications?
Sure. I can say that it depends on the applications. Some of the EDAC recommendations have been that they're requesting a specific amount of bids for certain projects. They're requesting potentially specific people to look at certain bids. In addition, each item would have to have a receipt or a quote bid that would come through me, depending on what some of those would look like. If we felt that we need someone on our team to go out and see that, we would make that decision on a per item basis.
Thank you. Commissioner.
Casey, have all these gone through EDAC then?
The four that I have brought forward tonight, so as we set up the program, any application 20,000 or higher was recommended to go through EDAC. The rest of the applications came through my office. I put them through our scoring rubric basically, and then gave them a score. Some of them, I had individual conversations with some of them, making some adjustments, looking at some of the specific items, and we did make some adjustments to their applications. Obviously, you would see the final version as I would share that.
So you're confident that these all qualify and that you've studied enough to determine that they're good and whatever the products are, or they buy or whatever, you'll get, we get the receipts on all that, correct? Whatever work they do, we get the receipts, so we'll know.
We would have all of those checks and balances. I think each one has some uniqueness to each application. With some of those questions, I do have one question that I would want to make sure that we would address on one of the applications here. I think because the line item specifically says paint, wall, and flooring, and this applicant is bringing forward a question around lighting, and I know I had received a couple of questions about that, and that's something I would prefer that the commission weigh in on. Other than that, I can say all of the other applicants have really shared their story, and I would also lean on additional comments from Commissioner Anderson and Commissioner Olson that were able to attend that Economic Development Advisory Committee meeting.
I think the key is checks and balances, just to make sure that everything's done proper. But I think it's a good program. I'm thinking Commissioner George wants something to say.
Yes, thank you. I just want to say I'm so excited to see people reaching out and using this program and that we're making a difference. It looks like the program is being used how it's intended to be used. And to me, it's looking very highly successful. And I'm super excited about this and just really glad to be helping businesses and people in our community.
Commissioner.
One quick question for you, Casey. Is there what we have in our packet here, not trying to segue, but you've got their scores, 11 out of 15, 25 out of 25. Was there a minimum cutoff?
Okay, now that Emily is just saying that document, now that I can understand the confusion, that document was supposed to go in the consent agenda. That is all of the childcare applications that are under $10,000 or under. So those are our childcare programs that are all in-home. I have that information here, I can speak to that, but those are all in-home or group childcares that are requesting very specific items. I have a quick synopsis of each application as I've had conversations with every one of those owners. So I apologize, that's probably very confusing because that's not what I was presenting whatsoever.
Right, we had those, the smaller ones here, part of the packet.
Sure.
That was the confusing part.
Sure.
So could we follow up on the question that Commissioner Olson just had? you know, some of the scoring was 11 out of 15, 13 out of 15, 11 out of 15. Is there a point that if they scored 8 or below that they didn't make the cut, or are all the applications, it's just a matter of priority?
So the way we designed the program was, it was by a matter of priority, except for I did have some reach out prior to submitting a formal application, requesting specific items or requesting certain things that I could tell you if I would score them, they would not have even scored a 3, right? So without even asking them to move forward on that application process, I ruled them out of those as they wouldn't be eligible. So in here, I would say as you're looking, the lowest number on this list is an 8 out of 15. If someone were to score, I would say a 6 or below, that is when I would have brought it forward to another group to help make those decisions. Because a 6 or below would tell me that I'm not confident that they would stay open and of quality, and I wouldn't want to have public funds go to an organization that I don't feel confident that they would stay open and of quality.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I think the only other thing we want to stress, and I think you said it, Casey, is that this is economic dollars. You know, it's not property tax or anything like that. This is coming out of economic development. So I think that's what this is all about myself. So
No sales tax involved in this whatsoever. It's a sales tax for the EDC that we're drawing.
No property
But
tax.
No property tax.
Correct.
That's
Correct.
So how do we want to proceed since we don't have that part of the packet? Or is it now part of the packet?
Okay, so it sounds like Emily just forwarded what was originally part of the draft agenda for tonight. So if you'd like to proceed, I do have a representative from those childcare providers here tonight. If you'd like to adjust, that's fine with me, but I'll take guidance from you.
yeah, I think you do have concerns with that portion, Commissioner Olson.
No, I just want to make sure that,
Oh, okay. I was wondering if we could.
because
Yeah,
it's not actually in what's the public-facing packet,
right.
how do we dare?
How do we get it in there?
I don't know if I refer that to our attorney on that, if we can move forward with that, or do we need to table that and move to the next meeting, or, you know?
Please, Mr. Shockley, if you have a comment?
Yeah, Mr. Commission President, Commissioner Olson, it's a regular meeting, so you can add things to the agenda. This you've already listed on the agenda, so it's just no additional materials. You can certainly act on it legally.
Just want to make sure we're
Okay,
all
yeah. So we're okay, okay.
legal here.
So I'll make a motion to approve then, Mayor, if that's okay with you.
Okay, we have a motion. Is there a
Second.
second? Commissioner George, seconds, I believe.
What are
Second.
what are we
Yep.
voting on?
To approve this program.
Which application are we, for the summit?
Well, this is, yeah, well, do you want to wait and go through all of them? Or do you want us to approve one at a time?
I was wondering.
So there's 4 applications that are over $20,000. If you would like to go through each application, my intent was to share a couple of the main points of each of those applications with you so that you could make that decision based on them. I think I'll leave that up to the commission, since this is a new program. As we proceed, and there's 2 more time periods of applications, one coming up on May 29th. I would want to make sure that I proceed with those applications in the same way. So I'll let that be your decision.
All right. Okay, I believe Commissioner George was trying to get the floor. Commissioner,
Oh, I was just trying to second the motion. I'd actually be okay with approving all of them as I've seen. I looked at it through the draft version. I'm okay with all of them, but it's up to you guys if you want to hear them separately.
I think we need to vote separately, as they're all separate applications. Would be my
Okay,
so
2 cents.
you're moving on
So-
to Summit,
so I'm going to make this difficult, and I apologize, Mayor, right now.
Right.
But it's not fair for me, I think, to make the motion. Commissioner George did all the work. I want her to go down in the records. So can I pull my motion back?
as long as the second's okay with it.
Second, okay with that?
Yep.
All right.
Okay, then go ahead, Commissioner George.
Commissioner Simmons has withdrawn his motion. And
I'd
approved by
like
the
to make a motion to approve.
Thank you, Commissioner George. Are you moving to approve everything?
But we haven't heard
Um,
anything.
it sounds like the commissioners would like to do them each individually, so we'll just vote on the first one then at this point.
Summit first.
Okay.
All right, so the motion is to approve Summit. Is that correct, Commissioner George?
Correct,
All right,
correct.
is there a second?
Second?
Commissioner Simmons seconds. Been moved and seconded to approve the application for the Child Care Improvement Grant for Summit. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried. Ms. Berglund, would you please continue?
Yes, the next applicant I have is the YMCA school-age sites. So these 8 applications, it's a unique conversation because each application came forward at $9,500. Even though that didn't meet the threshold of $20,000, I think merging them together as a larger application was necessary, as the total for all 8 would then be $76,000. The sites in which these locations are at Aurora, Brooks Harbor, Eastwood, Freedom, Ellie Berger, Legacy South, and West Side schools. So the purpose of this application is to really support the YMCA's mission to update their equipment that might be run down within their facilities. These school-based programs don't necessarily worry about the facility as much as they're in schools. However, all of their programs are unique in the fact that they need to have very mobile equipment that can fold up and be compact and put into a closet daily and then taken out daily after school when the kids are with them, and then used throughout the summer when they have all-day programs for children. Each one of these locations has the capacity to serve 100 children. Noting that this year, due to staffing restraints, some of the sites have reduced their capacity to 75 with children on those wait lists. Partially because, not because their equipment is run down or broken, but because they cannot have, or they do not have enough staff to facilitate those programs. So their goal is to take dollars that they already have budgeted for some of this equipment and ask the city to look at supporting them through this grant program for these specific items. So that they can shift some of those dollars to help support getting more staff and increase the opportunities to have children in their programs. Their score was a 13 out of 15, and they had a very fiscally responsible application with strong evidence that they'll remain open and safe. And so I'd just also remind you that this is for 8 separate locations that the YMCA operates within the city limits, not just the school district, but these are also West Fargo schools within the district. With that, Tanya is here and available to answer any questions about their program, and I'd be happy to help.
Questions, commissioners?
Make a motion to approve.
Commissioner Olson moves to approve the Y programs in the various schools. Is there a second,
Second.
please? Commissioner George seconds. Been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried. Please continue.
Thank you. The next application is Cheyenne Learning Academy. Again, this application came with its own story. The Cheyenne Learning Center has met a few bumps in the road in the last year. They experienced a major ownership change, I guess you could say, earlier in the fall, where they're actually the owner of their business, the prior owner, I should say, essentially used funds that they received from the state incorrectly, and without going into too much detail, had to move on from being a business owner. And in the middle of that process, 3 individuals stepped forward to take over this childcare center once they found out that the next day this childcare center was going to be closed. And so this was a surprising revelation, because at the time of the application, they served 115 children, which would have affected approximately 97 families. So just with that, thank you to keeping those individuals open, or those families going to work and keeping those doors open. Essentially, this business, because they walked into taking on a business as new business owners, had not being business owners before, they are still learning and kind of taking steps into that process. But one thing they learned rather quickly was that their flooring, through some inspections through licensing and health code, unfortunately was not maintained in the level in which it should have been. And their licensor has let them know that by the end of the year, they need to have almost every room of the floor redone, as it is molding. And so that is the bulk of their request, as you can probably understand. If that is not done, they will have to find another source of funds or potentially close their doors. Other than that, they have 16 infant cribs that are expired, in which they have until the end of September to replace. And currently they plan to spend the $3,100 approximately that's left from the flooring bid in this grant on replacing those cribs. So they did receive a score of 15 out of 15 for this grant. They are requesting the full request of $50,000, and have provided, they did provide one quote for a flooring contractor. The EDAC recommended approval for this provider. They also did request for this specific provider to, if they were to move forward, get a minimum of 3 bids for their flooring work that would need to be done, and one offered to help review some of those bids. So with that, Amanda is here to take any questions on their center. Otherwise, I will open it up.
Commissioners, questions? Please, Commissioner Anderson.
Is the $3,100 that's in here going to cover 16 cribs?
Thank you, Commissioner Anderson. The $3,100 will cover approximately 2 to 3 cribs,
Okay.
based on the bid that I received from them.
So if the bids for the flooring come in differently than the $49,000, they can use that discretionary? If it comes in at, say, $40,000, the other could be used for cribs then, to Commissioner Anderson's point?
That's a great question. How the program is designed is that as long as it's met in that eligibility guideline, they could shift those funds if it were to be less.
Okay, thank you.
Mayor?
Please, Commissioner Simmons.
Thank you. So I guess my question, Casey, is if they didn't get this funding, would they probably be in dire straits? I mean,
Essentially.
I guess where I'm going with this is we're all kind of approving these, and we're not really, we're saying, okay, let's give them the money, but we're not really telling the impact. This is 115 children, 97 families.
It's
The other one
closer.
is whatever. I mean, these are huge, huge impacts in our community. So I think we are doing the right thing, I hope, as far as what the state did as well. I think that this is a great program, and I want people to understand the impact. That's 97 families in our community. That's a lot. So I think what the city is doing is the right thing to do. Just wanted to make that comment. So with that, I would approve this.
Is that a motion?
That's a motion.
Okay, we have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Commissioner George seconds. Been moved and seconded to again approve the child care improvement grant for, what's the name of this one? Keith?
Cheyenne Learning Academy.
Cheyenne Learning. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Please continue.
Last childcare application this evening. This application is for the Creative Learning Childcare. This application is also unique as it's actually applying for two separate parts. The first part would be for the $50,000 piece, and that is for the renovation and upkeep portion, keeping in mind that the secondary portion is for the infant fit-up room. So there was a secondary rider to this program that if you were creating an infant space, a new infant space that would increase your infant capacity by 8 infants, you could apply for an additional $15,000 as a center. So first and foremost, this center has a space that is currently being used as storage, and she would like to shift all of that space into creating an infant space to be open potentially this fall. And that would be specifically 8, it would open specifically 8 infant slots in West Fargo. And then kind of shifting to the overall center, which is essentially, this is the request that I think we should have a conversation about. As in the line items, there was not a specific item for this, but looking at paint and wall repair, we had a conversation around what it would look like as she would like to apply for support for the fixing of lighting in her facility, as her owner has come in and done some fixing of some ballasts in the facility. It's old, essentially. The building needs all new electrical and lighting completed. And then I will note that this application did receive a score of 13 for the overall center, and then a score of 20 out of 25 for the infant fit-up room for the priority level, and increasing capacity. So with that, I would open it up for questions, and hopefully I can answer some of those.
Commissioners, questions?
Just a quick one for me. I don't see on here if you know how many children or families this center serves.
Yes. Let's see if Alicia's in here. I don't have the childcare slots on here. No, I don't. If Alicia's.
What was the question?
Alicia, do you have how many families you
Kids is in
serve?
effect.
Right now,
It-
we're serving 55 families, and that's about 80-some kids, and I'm licensed for 108.
Yep.
And then I have newborns coming, so.
Yeah. Could you all hear her?
Why don't you repeat it?
Could-
so we can-
Mandy didn't.
Sure. Alicia, do you want to come step up to the microphone so it's on record as well?
I'm sure Commissioner George can't hear it.
Yeah, if Casey, if you could just repeat that into the microphone, that would be great.
Do you want to share your capacity?
My capacity is 108, and I have 54 families. Right now, there's 80 children. Well, now we have a newborn, so in between July, we'll have like 4 more newborns coming in, so that would bring us up to 85, 86. And then we do have some kids coming in the summer also, so.
Okay, great. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Okay, okay, thank you.
Additional questions, Commissioners?
Well, just a comment, the one item that is not listed on here is lighting. So that's why it was on the bubble. It doesn't really identify that as part of one of our eligible expenditures, so that's why we need to have a discussion. Are we going to include lighting, or is that up to the landlord to do? Is one of the items we need to discuss.
Great question.
I guess in my opinion, if it's essential for her business, I would be all right covering it. That's my opinion.
Thank you, Commissioner George.
Has there been an attempt to work with the landlord and fix lighting? I know you mentioned it, but has there been any further actions, or what kind of issues would this have? I think when we were in EDAC, there's some safety issues that came up that are a big concern with the lighting. So I guess maybe how receptive is the landlord to fix things and et cetera?
Sure. That conversation did come up, Commissioner Anderson, and from what I understand, the landlord feels as though because his lighting is up to code, that's his level of responsibility. However, without going into additional detail, there has been some conversation, there was some conversation at the EDAC that there was some concern about, some of these lights getting rather warm or, potentially becoming a fire hazard in the future if things were not addressed at some point.
I think based on what I've heard, I'm comfortable covering it.
Have you, excuse me, thank you, Commissioner Anderson. Have you reviewed, all of the daycares are inspected by our fire prevention group and things like that. Has there been anything in the reports there about lighting or anything? To your point about the potential of issues?
I have not looked at those reports, so I don't
Fire
have that
department has
information.
to investigate every year. All right. Any further discussion, commissioners, or questions of Ms. Berglund?
Do we vote on this as one entire application, or since there's
Two parts?
two parts to this application for the cribs or the infant room fit up, and then there's the other part? I just want to make sure.
That'd be at the discretion of the person making the motion,
okay.
so we'll entertain it however it comes at us. Commissioners?
I'll make a motion to approve the total request with the amount, let's see, listed, I see the full amount requested with both the cribs and the infant fit-up room included. So I'll make that motion to approve.
Thank you, Commissioner George. Is there a second?
Second.
Commissioner Anderson seconds. Been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Is there any further discussion?
Can I make a comment? Or should we wait?
Certainly, it's a discussion period. Go ahead.
This isn't really discussion, it's just a comment. I want to compliment Commissioner Anderson and Commissioner George and the whole commission, really, because this is going to affect, well over 1,000 children in this community. It's amazing. I mean, with what we're doing tonight. So that's all I want to say.
Thank you, Commissioner. Is there any further
I'd also
discussion?
like to thank again
sorry,
Mrs.
yes.
Sanders Berglund for all of her work on this. I mean, I may be pushed to move this forward, but she's really the one that's done the work, and she's just done a tremendous job. And I'm so happy with the work she's done. So I just really appreciate everything she's done. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner George.
I apologize, Casey, absolutely you. So thank you.
We have a motion on the floor and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Aye. Motion carried.
Point of,
Please, Commissioner Olson.
since in the regular, the packet that we have, we've got the ones that were intended to be on the consent agenda, and they were not part of the consent agenda. How do we handle that now?
We're going to move into that next.
Okay.
All of those items for the smaller requests that have been, if you want to address them in
need to.
general, Ms. Berglund, that's fine, but we're going to handle this as a separate item.
Sure. I can certainly speak just in general about that. We do have one that is a new provider. She had been looking at becoming an in-home provider for several months, and this was essentially the push she needed to decide to open that up. So a new license for 9 children. In addition, in the priority of maintaining capacity, we had, I believe 12, yep. We had 12 applications that are all in-home providers, and that maximum amount that they would be approved for is up to $7,500, again, through a reimbursement proof of payment process. And then we had the 3 group license programs that are requesting specifically funds for their projects.
Thank
In
you.
each one, I listed what they focus on, whether it might be the licensing issues, safety, or some of the best practice items.
Very good. Thank you. Commissioners?
I'll make motion to approve.
Thank you, Commissioner Olson. Is there a second, please?
Second.
Commissioner George, second. Been moved and seconded to approve the child care facility improvement grants as listed on page 76 and 77 of our packet. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Item number 5 is a parking lot agreement with the Olson Family Properties. Again, we call on Casey Sanders Berglund, Economic Development Manager for the City of West Fargo, and this is in regard to a proposal with regard to some additional parking in the entertainment district in downtown Cheyenne Street.
Correct.
Please, continue.
Thank you again. So I'm bringing up a project that, or a proposal here for a project for the City of West Fargo to move into an agreement with the Olson Family Properties. So in your packet, you would see not only a proposal, but also a outline or a description of rendering of the project. Essentially, the outline looks as such that the city would pay for the upfront estimated cost of around $198,000 plus or minus 11% for that project. We would do the excavation, site prep, curb, gutter, asphalt stripping, guardrail, lighting, landscaping, and then the owner would manage the construction project. And then afterwards, we would enter into a 10-year lease beginning approximately July 1st through a 10-year lease. And then, looks like I have a typo here, I apologize, but starting in July, with that first year being July 1st, 2023 through June 30th, 2024. So a yearly lease payment would start at $15,200 with a 4% inflation increase yearly. So I have that first 10 years outlined. You can see that that includes seasonal upkeep, snow removal, seal coat and stripping every 3 to 4 years, total resurfacing approximately every 15 years, administration and taxes. This would also be used as a tool for economic development in our downtown area. As I know the commission is well aware, we've been hearing that we need additional parking opportunities in the area for some time. So this would, both the construction as well as the lease would come from economic development sales tax. The owner of the property is also here if you have specific questions, and that I would open it up to questions.
Thank you. Commissioners? Can you give a general description for the public, please, Ms. Berglund, as to where this green space is located now?
Sure. This green space is located behind the old Payroll Express building, or what's now called Convertia Health. And I probably skipped over saying that there would be 39 parking spots, 39 additional parking spots, and would be labeled or signed as public parking. So yes, it would be managed, through a lease, but it would be used for public parking.
Thank you. Commissioner?
I just have a question. I just want to make sure, John, you've gone through all this, correct? And
So we have not created a full parking agreement yet. We would do that, all of those
you just
details.
want our approval to move forward?
Correct.
Yes,
Okay.
that's
good.
correct.
Okay. I'd make that motion if there's no questions.
I have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Commissioner Olson seconds. Been moved and seconded to approve the review of the approved parking lot proposal with the Olson family properties and to move forward to a lease agreement with them. Is there any further discussion? This has been a critical part of a lot of discussions with regard to downtown Cheyenne and additional parking. And as Ms. Berglund said, it is immediately to the east behind Convertia,
Correct.
to the north of West Funeral Homes. So it's a space back there that is green space right now. There's nothing there. There's no tear down or anything like that. Obviously, just site preparation. And the Olson family has been great to visit with about these possibilities. We're grateful for that dialogue and to come forward with this potential agreement with the city of West Fargo. So to the Olson family, thank you very much for that dialogue. So, is there any further discussion?
Other than to say, as you mentioned downtown, this is going to be huge for us. We have a huge business coming. Everybody knows about it, and this will be great parking. We don't want to see, in Moorhead where everybody's parking in the neighborhood. I mean, that's kind of how that is. That's the way it is. I get that. That's kind of the times. But we're definitely being proactive, and that's what we need to be, I think, nowadays. So,
Anyone else? Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you again. Item number 6, we'll call on Pierre Freeman, our emergency manager for the city of West Fargo, with regard to the closure of the emergency declaration as committed to by the city of West Fargo City Commission. Here.
Good evening, Commissioner, President Darce, and other commissioners. I'm here to quickly ask you for a closure of the emergency declaration, as we are not finding any more need to have that open. Water seems to be flowing, the threat has diminished, although we will see flow continue through the month of May, and I'm sure Matt Anvik can speak more about that as well. But open for any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Freeman. Questions? As you probably seen, Commissioners, we all got emails today from the support team, all the people involved in with regard to the potential of our flooding when we declared an emergency, all weighed in on this issue that from city engineering to assistant city administrator to public works, and of course, Mr. Freeman being the emergency manager for the city, all indicating that our diversion has us in the position that we're in, and the clearance that we have running underneath the bridges, that it's all fine, that we do still have the diversion in operation and probably will be through all of May. Would you not say that? Probably because of the water that's coming through. So what we're doing is we're lifting the emergency declaration. And this is an actionable item, and I'd like a motion when you.
I'd make a motion to.
Thank you, Commissioner Simmons. Is there a second?
Second.
Commissioner Olson seconds. Been moved and seconded to close the emergency declaration for flooding for the city of West Fargo as presented by Mr. Freeman. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye, please.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you, Mr. Freeman. Item number 7 is an improvement district number 2265, 9th Street Northeast reconstruction. Mr. Dan Hanson, City Engineer for the City of West Fargo. Purpose of this discussion is to approve a task order number 3-3 for design services. It's on pages 81 through 102 of the packet. Good evening, Mr. Hanson.
Thank you, Commissioner President Dardis and Commissioners. The City of West Fargo has been working with Houston Engineering on the preliminary design of the reconstruction of 9th Street Northeast between Main and 12th Avenue. We were able to secure grant funding for this project. We've been working for well over a year, 2 years probably, on the preliminary work, environmental work, working with the DOT and various agencies to come up with the layout of the design. We've had public meetings for walkability. We've had public meetings with the business owners along that stretch. And where we're at today is we're at a point where we're ready to proceed with the final design. So we have in your packets a proposal from the consultant for us to enter into contract for them to do the final design of the project. And I would recommend that we would approve that. One other part of this, included in this project is the 9th Street Northeast roadway reconstruct, as I stated, but also included in this project is 7th Avenue Northeast from 9th going east and actually into the city of Fargo by about 1,300 feet. The intent is that we would be entering into an agreement with the city of Fargo that they would be able to piggyback onto our project because they've got a concrete section that comes within 1,300 feet of our section. We don't want to just stop the street with that section and leave that piece in between those. So we did work with the consultant who has reached out to the city of Fargo, who is on board with being a part of this project. So we'll work with the city attorney in coming up with an agreement between that, so the city of Fargo would pay for all the expenses that are incurred for any of the construction costs that design and construction costs in the city of Fargo. So with that, I would entertain any questions that you might have.
Thank you, Mr. Hanson. Commissioners, do you have questions?
Just-
Please, Commissioner Olson.
Does this include the possible grade separation over the railroad, either over or under the railroad tracks?
Where we're at with that right now, none of the current contract that's in front of us tonight includes that work. We have submitted for a grant, 85% grant, which would be 80% grant from the Federal Railroad Authority Administration, and then BNSF would actually tack on another 5% grant to that. So we have applied for an 85% grant for that. So and we've been told that we should find out either this month or if not this month, probably next month, whether we're successful with that. And if that happens, I will be back in front of you with another proposal to add that to the design for the project.
Thank you.
So,
Sorry, go ahead.
Commissioner George, please.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, so I'm going through this proposal real quick. I don't see a picture or anything with it, and I'm kind of trying to read through it quickly. You had mentioned walkability. Is there any plan for any sidewalk or multi-use path to go with it, or is it just single lane road, or just what is the plan with this?
Yes, there would be. There is a plan to have a multi-use path that goes the entire length of both 9th Street Northeast from Main up to 12th Avenue, and also a bike path that would be on the south side of 7th Avenue that would connect our 9th Street Northeast all the way over to 45th Street in Fargo.
Okay, awesome. I am absolutely thrilled to see this and hear this. It needs it so bad. So fantastic. Thank you.
Commissioner Anderson.
Am I reading this right in that we're looking to put in a roundabout on 7th and 9th?
That is correct. Included in the preliminary design is a roundabout at 7th and 9th that is designed knowing the expansion that we're going to have, the future traffic that we're going to have, and we want to do it now so we don't have to come back later.
Okay. I'm glad Commissioner George brought up the walkability stuff because I guess I'm curious how walkability works with roundabouts. I've always thought when I'm going around a roundabout, it's a little tougher to see pedestrians than it is at a regular intersection. So I guess, I don't know, that's where my concern's at with this, and I'm not a fan of roundabouts, to be honest. So
Yeah, definitely the public is 50-50 on them at best. But from a safety perspective, our transportation engineer would say that roundabouts for both the traveling public in vehicles, motor vehicles, as well as pedestrians, roundabouts are safer for both. And the main thing is with them is that you're not trying to chase a yellow light. You're not trying to do things like that. Everything that, any kind of a collision you would have with a vehicle, it's more of a side swipe fender bender. You don't have T-bones. You don't have, front end collisions. So very safe as far as motor vehicle traffic, and as far as pedestrian traffic goes, studies have shown that they are safer than signals.
Okay, then we have enough room for one that's, I think it looks like might be expanding the one up on 12th as well. Do we have enough room for that at 7th?
Part of the scope of services from our consultant would be working with the landowners to gain some additional right-of-way for that.
Okay.
We have been in, with all the businesses that we've been meeting with, we have laid out different things. They did a very good job of being able to fit everything as much as possible into the corridors, but yes, there would be some additional land that would be needed to do that. The 12th Avenue roundabout, when the traffic analysis came back, showed that there was a level of service needed in the future for that to function properly. So we're adding that into the project now, and then also for 7th. We are also doing that, but yes, we'll need to. Included in the preliminary design is also a frontage road along the east side of 9th Street, north of 7th Avenue, because there are, as we all know, multiple businesses that access that roadway right there. And can you imagine 45th Street in Fargo with a whole bunch of driveways coming out to it? That's what we're envisioning with that. So there is a one-way northbound frontage road that would handle that, so that we don't have driveways onto our collector arterial roadways. And the other thing that is very nice about the two roundabouts is the businesses that are there obviously have trucks that show up, and due to the lack of drivers, we've been told that they're going to be starting to potentially do tandem trucks. The roundabouts that are proposed in the plan are basically U-turns for those big trucks to be able to access those sites properly and stay within the right-of-way and not have to go over the curb and things. So again, I think the consultants did a great job of communicating with the business owners, finding out their needs, and part of those roundabouts is accessibility to the local businesses there.
Okay, thank you.
And this is an item that's been on our CIP.
Yes, that's correct. Yeah.
What is the dollar amount that's in the community improvement plan?
I don't know if I have that right in front of me. It was on previous cover sheets. What I can tell you is the dollar amount that we have for the two construction projects that we have here is for 9th Street Northeast and 7th Avenue Northeast is a combined $19 million worth of construction. We got $9.2 million approximately of grant coming in for this. I don't have that CIP number in front of me, but I can definitely get it to you.
Thank you, Mr. Hanson. Anyone else?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Commissioner Simmons moves to approve. Is there a second, please?
Second.
Commissioner George seconds. Been moved and seconded to approve the improvement district number 2265 9th Street Northeast reconstruction. To approve the task order 3.3 for design services. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you, Mr. Hanson. Item number 8 is project number 2273. It's a 23rd Avenue South and Blue Stem Drive East intersection modifications and traffic signal improvement. Again, we're going to call on Mr. Dan Hanson, City Engineer. The discussion is to approve a task order number 1 for basic services. It's on pages 103 to 110 in your packet. Mr. Hanson.
Thank you, Commissioner President Dardis and Commissioners. As stated and previously discussed, that we're looking at putting a traffic signal in the intersection of Blue Stem Drive East and 23rd Avenue South. in the location where the Costco parking lot enters into that roadway. We discussed that in the past. If I could, I'd like to make one clarification on the cover sheet that was presented at the last commission meeting. I had incorrectly stated TIF funds in the amount of about $512,000 were available for this project. The dollar amount was right, but the definition of a TIF fund, it wasn't technically a TIF fund that has those dollars. So I was just going to read something that I put together for clarification. The funds for this project were not TIF funds, but rather were funds in the 2012 Costco Business Incentive Sales Tax Bond Fund. Instead of a TIF district, the City of West Fargo created an incentive agreement structure to attract the Costco store, under which part of the sales tax generated by sales at Costco would be used to pay for a number of improvement districts that were created to build and fund the infrastructure for the Costco store. The incentive was extremely successful and the bond was paid off early, leaving some remaining funds in the bond fund, consisting of the debt service reserve bond fund and the sinking fund. Once a bond is paid off, the remaining dollars in that debt service reserve and sinking fund are legally permitted to be swept into the general fund to be used for any legal purpose. Further, pursuant to City Code Section 1-0910, these excess sales tax dollars should likely be, by policy, be used for infrastructure costs, but based on state law, they could be used for any legal purpose. So I wanted to make that clarification because it was incorrectly stated that it was TIF funds at the last commission.
Thank you for correcting that, and you are correct, and it is standard policy by cities everywhere that you can do one of two things. You can either sweep it into the sales tax or the general fund, or you can continue to maintain it there if you're well aware that due to that development in that area, that there's going to be additional improvements required because of improved traffic. I was on site today. What's happening out in Rivers Bend and all that amazing development that's taking place to the west of there is, it certainly warrants this. So thank you for the clarification, though.
You're welcome. And so bringing us to the action item today, we, at the recent commission meeting, had instructed the engineer to request a task order for basic services for the design of the stoplight. That has been provided to us by the consultant, so we would be looking for an approval of that task order number 1.
Thank you. Questions for Mr. Hanson?
Make motion to approve.
Thank you, Commissioner Olson. Is there a second, please?
Second.
Commissioner Anderson seconds. Been moved and seconded to approve project number 2273 for the approval of a task order number 1 for basic services at 23rd Avenue South and Blue Stem Drive East. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you, Mr. Hanson.
Thank you.
Item number 9, sanitary sewer access improvements. It's a creative project number 1346. Approve the engineer's report and direct the engineer to prepare both a task order for basic services and plans and specifications. It's on pages 111 to 119 in the packet. Mr. Hanson.
Thank you, Commissioner President Dardis and Commissioners. This project really was basically discovered when we were pursuing the preliminary scoping of a sanitary reline project in the core area that was called out in the core area study and on the CIP. And we were doing a lot of televising of the core area sanitary where we have vitrified clay pipe, the VCP pipe out there that is typically at the age that it is, it's used its design life up and it's typically cracked in places and a large contributor to infiltration and inflow into our sanitary system. And in doing the initial televising for that, it was discovered that there was a number of sanitary sewer mains in the core area that we did not have access to without climbing over a whole bunch of fences to get into backyards. Basically, there was sanitary sewer mains at the time were stubbed into these new developments, and they were just stubbed down the rear yard line until they reached the last house that they could service, and that's where they stopped it. They didn't continue the the main out into the street. So right now, as it was discovered, there are several different lines that if there was a failure or, you know, if they got plugged or if there was something that we had to maintain them, Public Works does not have access to them without going through some rear yards. So we were intending originally to do that sanitary sewer relining project this summer. We've pushed that back to next summer, and the reason for it is this project, it proposes installing manholes and extending sanitary sewer mains out to public right-of-way, so that way in the event that there are failures, plugs, or maintenance that needs to be done, Public Works has the ability to access it. Imagine with 3 feet of snow on the ground a month ago, if there would have been something that happened back there, it would have been very detrimental to Public Works trying to fix it and maintain it, which could result in sewer backups into basements and things. So we thought it would be pertinent to push the sanitary sewer relining project back to a 2024 project and bring forth this project where we, either drop a manhole into a concrete or asphalt street on top of the existing line, so that way we can access it from there. And also there's several of them that I mentioned stopped within the rear yards that we would still need to work with those residents. We would still need to get permission to go into their yards for this project. Typically it's only the closest yard to the roadways that we need to, so there'd be basically 2 property owners generally that we would need to work with to get access, and obviously we would restore any rear yards, work with them to get easements, and put it back to, with this project, we would put it back to pre-existing conditions. And by doing this, Public Works will be able to have access for maintenance of these lines, but also we would be able to televise them to find out what condition that they're in the event that we should add them to the sanitary sewer relining project for 2024. This project here was not listed on any CIP. It's something that was discovered while we were, again, trying to scope the CIP project. We estimate that the cost of this project, with all the soft costs, being $610,000. And we would propose that funding would actually come out of the capital improvement sales tax fund. And with that, no special assessments with this project.
Thank you, Mr. Hanson. Questions, Commissioners? Commissioner Anderson?
I guess my question is, why wouldn't we be using the sewer fund that we pay into with utility fees?
We absolutely could. I was proposing the capital improvement sales tax, but I don't know, Dustin, if you have any comment as far as the sewer fund being able to be used for this.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioners. Yeah, so the sewer fund is certainly an option. Generally, the revenue pulled there, a couple things. One, that goes to pay for a lot of the sewer services that we do provide, as well as things like if we were to go after a revenue bond to, say, finance current and past projects, that revenue from our sewer and water utility needs to go to that source. So I would say that our ability to use that fund is just it's smaller than when you start talking the capital improvement fund has a lot more in there. So, but again, if that's something that the commission wants us to consider, we can certainly bring that back at a future meeting.
Okay, thank you.
I would be worried, I'm sorry, Mayor.
Please, Commissioner.
Thank you. I'd be worried that if we use that, Commissioner Anderson, we could run low on bonding issues, and that would be a huge problem, so.
Yep.
Correct, okay. I'd make,
Thank you. Anything additional, Mr. Hanson?
No, that's it. We
Questions,
just-
Commissioners? Anything additional? Anyone?
make a motion to approve?
Thank you, Commissioner Simmons. There's a second, please.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to approve to create a project 1346, approve the engineer's report and direct the engineer to prepare both a task order for basic services and plans and specifications. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried. Next order of business is item number 10 is the Sand Hills 6th Edition Proposed Improvement District 1345. The purpose of the discussion is to accept a petition for improvements and preliminary work agreements with developers and authorized preliminary engineering. It is on pages 120 to 143 in the packet. Again, Mr. Hanson, welcome.
Thank you, Commissioner President Dardis and Commissioners. The city of West Fargo has been petitioned by two separate developers, Ocho Indy LLC and Ryan Rested, for public improvements to provide city utilities, roadways, and storm sewer into the Sandhills with the proposed Sandhills 6th edition. They're working in the platting process right now, and they have been sending out offers for purchasing properties to existing residents and landowners out in that area. The purpose for me here tonight would be, because we have been petitioned for these improvements, to come forth to approve the petitions that have been properly submitted. And the other thing that has come with these petitions is the preliminary work agreements from both developers. And what those preliminary work agreements are, we have talked about this in the past when we were talking about 26th Avenue before. The petitioning developers are willing to put money into an escrow account that would be used to pay for any preliminary engineering that we would be doing with this work. So in the event that the project eventually, or the improvement, does not go forward, the city would be able to utilize those funds in that escrow account to pay for any costs incurred with the work that we're bringing forward tonight. I did work with the city attorney in putting the preliminary work agreement together. So I know we're still in the platting process, but with those preliminary work agreements, there wouldn't be any financial risk to the city in the event that this project does not move forward, because we would have those funds to draw from. In the event that the project does move forward, eventually a district is created, the plat is completed. At that point, we would create a district, and if we had spent any money in the escrow account, it would be refunded back to the people that funded it and put into the district. The preliminary engineering work that we would be looking at doing is getting the consultant to prepare for us a feasibility study, and the feasibility study would come back and say, here's what we're estimating the project to cost, and here are the improvements that they're proposing to make. So right now we don't have any cost estimates. There have been some very, very preliminary numbers that have been thrown around, but this feasibility study would really come back and give us a scope and estimated cost of what the eventual improvements for this neighborhood would be. And with that, we do have both developers in the room that would be available to answer any questions that you might have. And again, as far as the process and what's in front of you, I can also answer questions.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Hanson. Questions? Commissioners?
Just a quick question. With the special assessment in the improvement district, is it just Sandhills that would be receiving special assessments for this?
Thank you, Commissioner George. That's what the feasibility study would tell us, is they would tell us what the costs would be, and also there would be in that feasibility study a proposed district boundary. It isn't the intent that any costs that are created by this project would be 100% special assessed. There would be no city costs unless there's, and aside from this project, we did talk about potentially purchasing some land for a future 26 corridor. That's outside of this discussion here. This would just be for the utility services and the roadways and storm sewer improvements to the properties. So that's what this feasibility study would tell us.
Okay, my concern with this is, if it was just Sandhills, they're putting money in escrow. I actually like that part of it, and I'm okay with that. But I am concerned. It's being done for this, Sandhills is not being done for the residents so much. It wouldn't be done, without this. So I'm a little torn, because I don't want to see residents getting special assessments when it wouldn't have happened otherwise. I'm torn right now.
Yeah, and what I can say to that is if the feasibility study does come back and it has the outline of an assessment district that the city is not in favor of, we do have the ability to say that we're not going to accept that and come back and say that they need to go back to the drawing board. It is truly up to the Special Assessment Committee and then eventually, ultimately, the City Commission as to the boundaries of that assessment district. So by doing this tonight, we are not saying that anybody is getting assessed outside of this development. We'll have to see the feasibility study come back where they'll actually give us that information. And again, we'll have an opportunity to get back up here and discuss that and ask some hard questions if there are some boundaries that go outside of the petitioned properties.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Any additional questions? Commissioner Anderson?
Yeah. So I've heard from some of the residents, they've got some, issues with this development here. I guess my question is, if there are residents that choose to stay, does this happen still? Does the developer still move forward with this and just build around? I've got concerns with the issues that have been raised with the residents. I know a lot of them are special assessments, and I've been a part of that. So part of it's on me, being on the Special Assessment Commission before this commission. But, I know it's been discussed a lot. So I guess that's one question that I have in addition to what Commissioner George had asked and brought up.
In my opinion, the developer that is petitioning for the improvements has the right to petition and develop their property, obviously. Now, there is surrounding residents that we've all heard from and we're all concerned about. And we don't, if they weren't, say, your question was if they were not getting assessed, would they still proceed? That would be what we would need to go over with the feasibility study. That would come up with a dollar amount that the developers could actually say, okay, if the commission is not allowing any assessments outside of our boundaries, can we absorb those costs? And to make it, because they're business people, they have to have a return on their investment and the risk that they're taking in doing this project. But I would suspect that with the location of this property, that they would still want to develop. It might change a little bit if there's that. But one thing I can say is to the residents and the land that's out there that's not contained within the boundaries of the petitioned properties is we as a city and as an engineering staff cannot leave them on islands as far as their utility goes. We know that right now they're serviced by a smaller domestic water line from a local well and things of that nature. We're not going to allow the development to occur around it and just leave them left to their own devices for that. There's going to have to be, if say that there's residents that don't sell and this still happens and we basically, the developer surrounds them with development, there's going to have to be some provisions to make sure that they have adequate sewer, water, drainage, utilities, as well as roadways to get in and out of their properties. So we as a staff would need to make sure that happens.
Okay. Thank you.
Commissioner Simmons?
Thank you, Dan. I guess plain truth is we're not going to know anything unless we do the study as far as what the assessments even are, right? So, we need to do this just to see, and then once we find out what they are, then we'll figure out how to pay for them, I guess is where I'm going with this.
That's correct. Yep. This is the first step, is to accept the petition that says that yes, we recognize that you're the owner of the property and you want to improve it. And then in the past, we would have generally just we would have approved this preliminary engineering work just through a project.
It would have been, non-consent pretty much.
We would not have had this preliminary work agreement to pay for it in the past. This is something that we've come up with over the last year and a half to protect the city from, there's a lot of people that want to do a lot with different properties within the city of West Fargo, and we can't just take on every project if they're wondering. What this does is it allows us to say, to have a tool that says, we absolutely will take a look at it for you in the event that it comes back and it gives you the wrong answer financially for what you'd like to do out here. Then you can walk away from it. We've got an agreed escrow account that we can use to pay for it. And in the end, they would still have the value of having that feasibility study with them, but
This is move forward at your own risk is what it is.
This is
We've done
true,
that in the past with building permits and stuff, so.
Yep, so we would look to get a contract in place with a consultant to do the preliminary engineering work, and I will give you my word that that contract will not be more than the dollars that are in the escrow account.
Commissioners, additional questions for Mr. Hanson?
I would make a motion to approve.
Thank you, Commissioner Simmons. Is there a second, please?
Second.
Commissioner Olson seconds. Been moved and seconded to approve for improvements in preliminary work agreements from developers on the Sand Hills 6th Edition and to authorize preliminary engineering as presented this evening by Mr. Hanson. Is there any further discussion?
I don't know, there's people, do you want to open it up late after this or now?
Yeah. As per Mr. Hanson's opening comments, both developers are in the room. Both of the gentlemen there are named in the agreement. Is there any questions that you'd have of them? Mr. Eggstead or Mr. Morris? No? All right, we have a motion. Any further discussion?
Residents can't say nothing tonight? Residents in the Meadowbrook Park area, that area?
I'm sorry?
I said, do the residents able to speak tonight? That area?
It's not normal unless you would had applied through the commission and through the meeting. If you're here, I did, again, if I allow you to speak, I'll certainly allow the potential developers to speak as well. So step to the microphones, state your name and address, please.
Yeah, my name's Chris Gibbons, 2640 Gress Avenue. What was it, on Valentine's Day, we were here before a different board panel, pretty much, and they suggested that a developer buy the last 4 or 5 remaining homes out there and get everybody off the water line so work could commence. And we've been waiting. There was a partial offer. I own 2 more lots next to the other one, and I talked to the guy. Nothing's moved forward yet, but the board did not want anything to happen until those residents were gone, and they were specifically clear on that.
Are you speaking about the Planning and Zoning Commission?
Maybe that's
The other
what it
committee
was.
on?
It was Valentine's Day meeting. Yeah, it was different people.
Yeah.
And they were saying, no, just wait until these residents get out. And they asked the developers to make sure they could get them out. And talks might be happening between other people. They've sent out a couple letters. They even bought one out. So now there's only like 4 people left, and we're all on that water line.
Okay.
And to incur specials, this has been going on for 8 years. It's chased me out of my house. I've lost just about everything I have. I was able to pay the specials on it to keep it so nobody could take it. And that's it. I don't even live in it anymore. I had to move out to live for cheaper just so I could save the money to pay the specials. My specials was $500 on 2 lots with a trailer on it, and now they're $5,000. That's over 800% higher. The other 2 lots were empty. They had nothing on them. They were $100. Now they're $4,000. That's $9,000.
Sir, I need to keep you on the Sand Hills element of this, please.
Okay.
Your discussion.
Okay, well, I just hope nothing happens till the residents are out. We've been through enough for the last 8 years. I know I have, and I have some neighbors here. And thank you for letting me speak.
Thank you, sir. Would either of the developers like to chime to rebuttal?
Austin Morris, Enclave Development. I'd just like to share from a homeowner's perspective. We heard the Planning Commission loud and clear from a process perspective on how to move forward. there's so many steps to this as a result of the challenges or obstacles that we have to overcome within this land area that was guided industrial by a prior study. But we still have a number of homeowners that have homes out there, and we respect that and want to ensure, even from 12 months ago when we endeavored to develop this area, when we met with city staff, we knew that the path forward to develop this area had to be a solution where homeowners would not incur additional special assessments as a result of the improvements that we would require for the development, and that would be required for further development north of here. And that's how we endeavored to proceed. We have sent letters out to every homeowner that has a structure on their lot. We've sent some letters out to lot owners that have no structure on the lot, but our focus was, there's roughly 6 homeowners at the Planning Commission meeting that came forward and spoke that had homes, lived in their homes, and we were called by the Planning Commission to support a potential solution for those homeowners. So that's part of the process that we're working on. This part of the process, sort of in tandem, requires, I believe, 3 or 4 meetings from a public infrastructure perspective. So the homeowners will have an opportunity after the feasibility study, after you guys have reviewed and considered it. And during that same time, concurrently, we'll continue to make progress on the other items. So just wanted to share that and look forward to moving forward.
Thank you, Mr. Morris. Any questions for either the gentleman or Mr. Morris? Okay. Commissioner? Okay.
My name is Amanda Barker. I'm here on behalf of my dad, Tim Cocaine, and stepmom, Leah Cocaine, who are residents in Meadowbrook Park. And I think a big concern is that in January of 2016, a similar city commission meeting was held regarding Sandhills 3 development. And at that meeting, it was stated that the residents would not incur any special assessments. Clearly, that is very false, and they've incurred outrageous specials. At that planning and zoning meeting, I got up and spoke about the outrageous rates of specials residents were paying. And the developers have done their part. They have increased their offers. They have made offers to the residents, but the city also said at that meeting 3 months ago that they were going to do a part and come up with an option to help offset what the developers could offer to the residents. My dad has cancer. My stepmom's at retirement age. They've completely paid off their house. They can't go buy a new house, take out a mortgage to be able to move into a new house because they can't get a relocation rate for their house. This is outrageous, and something needs to be done for these residents. At the last meeting, we were told that what we were talking about wasn't the purpose of that meeting, and that the purpose of that meeting was to approve the rezoning of the land. It wasn't for the residents. So my question is, whose job is it to take care of their residents? Because they moved into their house in 1999, before it was part of the city. They had no say in being rezoned. They had no say in getting the special assessments, and they've raised concerns every time. The residents just need to be taken care of. The development should occur, but the residents need to be taken care of first. And when you sit here and say that the residents aren't going to get the impact from the special assessments, well, that's been said before, and it's on video, the January 2016 commission meeting.
Commissioner Simmons.
Thank you. I think, for the last comment, I think this is what we need to see. We need to see how much it's going to cost. That's the bottom line, and we'll figure that out when then you all come forward and talk to us, say, hey, this is how much this has cost. We need help. But to get there, we have to do the study to figure out how much it is. And I know Enclave, I'm sure, hopefully they'll come back. They're a good company, so I know that they'll work with everybody as far as if you actually want to be bought and out. But again, until we get this done, we don't know the price tag. Let's get this done. Let's get the price tag. Then we'll talk. And then we'll try to figure something out. Fair enough?
So TIFs and some grants to help them buy us out.
Please don't speak from the audience unless you're at the microphone.
Well, let's get this. I'm going to make a motion, if there's no more conversation, to get this through.
Already got the motion.
We have a motion and a second. This is discussion.
Oh, I'm sorry, this is just, okay.
That's all right.
Well, again, let's just get this done. We'll figure out what it's gonna cost, and then we'll go from there. We'll work with the developers to make it work.
Are there any additional questions? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hanson. Thank you all for participating. Item in 10.5 is item D from the consent agenda. Alcohol consumption at the Red River Market in West Fargo, North Dakota on May 13, 2023 from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Now, special liquor license or approvals and all of that usually go through the Liquor Control Board. So Commissioner Olson, you were the one that brought it to me first.
Right.
That you wanted to have it pulled. So Commissioner Olson.
I'm just wondering why we have it here, and it seems to be more of just a letter to notify us rather than a request to have it. And I don't know these vendors, if through which liquor license are they getting their, is it being transferred to them to be able to do? So I'm thinking this needs to go to the Liquor Control Board and have it handled there.
So I don't know, Casey, how much you know about this, but basically it's the farmer's market, and they have, like wine tastings and just setups like that. In the past, they've had it once out at our West Fargo events at the plaza, and then they've had it a few times at the 40th Avenue there. That I can't remember the name of the place, but this is like kind of the street. From my understanding, it's kind of like the street fair downtown. They're just going to block it off and have. But I honestly don't know.
I'm not opposed to it.
Yeah, I think it goes through.
It needs to go through the Liquor Control Board to then identify which actually establishment is transferring their liquor license to these three people.
I don't disagree. I'm pretty certain it's the West Fargo events.
Chief, do you have any insight on this?
Chief.
Or Mr. Shockley?
I don't, short of getting information from the Liquor Control Board on these, the permits, and, they don't normally end up on a consent agenda like this without going through the board, so I don't, they're certainly common that we issue these, or the commission does, or Liquor Control makes it through that, but I don't have any, this specific one, this is the first time I've seen it.
Thank you, Chief.
Maybe they meant to put it on the liquor control instead of this one. The problem we have is it's May. Do we,
Mr. Scott?
Thank you, Commissioners. Actually, I really don't have anything to add. I'm kind of surprised too. I think Commissioner Simmons has a good point. It's possible they meant to put this on the Liquor Control Board, but I'd have to go back and take a look as to.
Well, it's, the event is going to take place before the next commission meeting.
And that could be why they are rushing it. Again, I didn't have any direct communication with them.
But aren't Liquor Control Board meetings the second Tuesday of each month? So there's plenty of time for that one.
Okay, you guys got it covered then.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, being the chair of Liquor Control Board, I would prefer to have something like this, at least on the regular agenda for the city commission, or come through the Liquor Control Board and make sure we're crossing our T's, dotting our I's, making sure that we know whose liquor license this is going to go under, because they're going to be responsible for the people serving, and if they overserve and all that. So that's where my concern is.
They got to be licensed servers and all of that.
Right. Exactly. So this is happening in my neighborhood. I'm not against it, but I want to make sure it's done safe, and it's going to be, within the.
I agree, it should go to the board. So how about, can we do this? Can we do a conditional approval? And then if the liquor board approves it? I'm sorry.
I'll update you from what I know. So what they did is they took out a street closure permit for it. So that's already started, and then they go through the process with like the fire department, public works, the police department, everything like that, just to get it like set up, and then it moves on to like actually even like have it style, like, and get it. I guess that's my understanding. And then they just wanted you guys to be like informed that if anybody in the public is like, hey, what's going on with this, what happened with it, kind of thing.
I just think anytime that we're having any kind of liquor being made available to the public out there. We know whose liquor license it's being attached to and all that kinds of stuff, because they're the ones ultimately, we can't just have people out there setting up.
Right. I agree. I think something got confused here, Commissioner. So can we do I'll make this motion, and hopefully this will, well, I'm sorry.
I don't even, Commissioner Simmons, I don't think you even need a motion. I think it's just a notification. It got routed onto the consent agenda, and it really should have been under correspondence. What it appears to be.
That's what it appears to me too, yep. So
And-
this wouldn't typically actually go to the Liquor Control Board. This is
When you
just a-
can correspond with them, it doesn't go to the Liquor Control Board?
They're not actually asking for a license. People will be consuming alcohol there. It's not the vendors asking for a license. See, the vendor, when you have you're all correct in that if you want to sell liquor at a special event, you need the special event permit. And so if you have a license, you would apply to the Liquor Control Board to get a special event permit. This is the organizations just notifying everybody that, hey, there's an event going on, people are going to be consuming alcohol there. They're not actually asking for the license because
So where are they getting the alcohol from, John?
the vendors that have the license will be going through the process of getting a permit. They're just this should have really went under correspondence that, hey, we're having an event, and I think that's what happened. We're trying to figure out exactly how it got routed onto the consent, but it appears that it was just supposed to be a friendly notification that they're having an event.
So the vendors are going through the liquor,
Are they-
but have they
are
come
they-
to us yet?
I haven't seen an agenda. Are they?
Yeah, it's 2 weeks, so I don't know what's on there yet.
Okay.
I think
There's a
before.
non-action from the
Yeah,
city
okay.
commission.
Right.
All right, moving on. Item number 11 is city administrator and department head positions. Mr. John Shockley, city attorney, and Mr. Dustin Scott, assistant city administrator. There's 2 items on this, is to approve the contract with Baker Tilly to assist with the hiring of the city administrator. Please.
Thank you, Mr. Commission President. I'm going to be handling item A, and the Assistant City Administrator will be handling item B. Over the last couple of weeks, I've reached out to a number of search firms to kind of gather their experience and their potential costs. I'm recommending Baker Tilly only for this position. If you wanted to look at other positions that you wanted to use a search firm for, we have some really great local firms that I think could do a really good job on like a department head. The Baker Tilly sort of distinguished themselves in that they've handled these higher profile executive positions before. And so I just wanted to set that caveat so that some of the other providers that I spoke with, this is only for the city administrator position. There may be other opportunities for them to provide services. They just didn't have the same level of experience that Baker Tilly did. I wanted to kind of just highlight, and I apologize for not getting it onto the commission agenda in the packet. Baker Tilly was still kind of putting the final touches on the scope of services, and we've been going back and forth. And I did send it out by email. If somebody from the public is interested, there's plenty of extra copies, and I handed it out to the city commission. I just briefly wanted to go over some of the high levels of what Baker Tilly would be doing for the city. And really, I want to stress it's for the city commission and for the city. This is absolutely your hire. I want to make that very clear that as a city attorney, I'm just here to help you guide you through the process. I will do what you tell me to do, but I want to make sure that it is your position that you're hiring for, your employee, and I think that relationship that you have with the city administrator is really important. And what Baker Tilly can do, and it's really highlighted on pages 2 and 3, just briefly at a high level, is they're going to help develop a recruitment brochure and develop the advertising. And as part of that, they reach out to you as city commissioners, as a city commission, they reach out to different stakeholders, and they really help you to develop that vision for what you want in a candidate. And I think, in my experience, when a city is going through a transition like this, it's really important that the commission, each of the commission members kind of get their input into what do you want in that next person to lead the city, really have that input into, do you want to see leadership? Do you want to see diversity? Do you want to see these other items? And they can help you build that profile and get it out to the right people. The second part, and that's going to take, they're estimating about 1 to 3 weeks to build that profile. And then they're also going to ask you about who do you want involved in as stakeholders in building that profile. Do you want to reach out to staff? Do you want to reach out to local administrators? Do you want certain members of the public involved? They'll walk you through that process and kind of share with you their experiences. The second task is really the execution of that recruitment strategy and identification of the quality candidates. Baker Tilly has a kind of a national reach where sometimes candidates that would be really good for the position may not even be looking for a job right now, and so they'll contact people and say, hey, are you looking for this position? I think that this skill set they're looking for you fit into really well. And then through the third part, they start accepting the applications with the assistance from the city commission and however you want to structure that process. And they start screening the applicants. Sometimes people of different qualifications will apply for a position and they may not necessarily be qualified or fit that position, and they'll help you through that process. And I don't have the recipe for what that looks like, if that should involve 1 or 2 or 3 commissioners or all the commissioners involved in that screening process. I really want them to work with you on what you want that process to look like. You're engaging them to help you through that process. And then I think what's really important is as you get close to selecting the semifinalists, they'll go through and do all the background checks, criminal background check, civil background check. They do bankruptcy background checks, references checks, and academic checks. Having had clients that utilize them before, they do a more comprehensive check than you would be able to with your police department, just because they have access to greater databases, whereas the police department is just doing a criminal background check. They're going to do a larger background check and kind of dig up things that may not necessarily be red flags, but things the commission would be interested in knowing, such as, I'll use one example, and I won't say who it was, that one of the candidates had been recently placed on a paid administrative leave, and the commission or the council at that time would not have known that person was on paid administrative leave. And so those types of vetting things I think are really critical. And then they'll help you through the final interview process, figure out what you want that process to look like. Do you want them to take a test? Do you want them to take a test and conduct a mock press conference? Do you want it to be a full commission interview? Do you want to take them around town? They'll help you through all of that process and kind of provide their guidance and experience and what that looks like. Overall, they're estimating the process takes between 90 to 120 days, which kind of, I think, folds nicely into the beginning of the next school year. As my experience, if somebody's going to take the position, they're likely going to have kids that are going to be school age or maybe slightly older, and so marking the beginning of that school year is always a good area. They can also help talk to you about what level of stakeholder involvement, how public you want it to be making it, those sorts of issues. And they're my experience is they do a very good job of that, structuring that interview process. And then I think probably the most couple important things is in the packet you'll see their experience. They have about 1,600 different positions that they've worked for. They've kind of identified numerous city administrators and manager positions, both locally and nationally, that they've assisted with. And then finally, the cost involved is $26,000. However, they guarantee that if your employee for the first year, you terminate the employee, they quit, they'll go back and do the search again. And so you have basically a 1-year warranty on their services. And overall, I think it's a good process. I will note that a couple final comments, and I'll open up or answer any questions you might have, is right now with the HR department at the city, there's not really the capacity to do the internal advertising. Further, I think that given the priority of the position and the importance of the position, that bringing in an outside firm to assist with your leader of the city and really help the commission figure out what you want in that person is really critical. Because I do truly want to make sure that the commission, you get the person that you want to lead the city. So happy to answer any questions. And
Thank you, Mr. Shockley. Commissioners, questions for Mr. Shockley? Anybody?
This is an actionable item.
Yes, this is an actionable item to approve the contract as outlined by Baker Tilly here.
I'll make the motion to approve.
Thank you, Commissioner Olson. Is there a second?
Second?
Commissioner Simmons seconds. Been moved and seconded to approve the contract with Baker Tilly to assist in the hiring of the city administrator. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you, Mr. Shockley. Item B, Mr. Scott.
Thank you, Commission President Dardis, members of the commission. So part 2 of this item is the hiring of our department heads. As I've outlined in this memo here, the City Commission adopted a new policy back in March whereby the City Commission President will appoint 2 commissioners of opposite portfolios to the hiring committee for each department head. And so what you find before you is the appointments that Commission President Dardis has prepared. And so this is open for discussion, but I would certainly yield the floor then to Commission President Dardis.
Commissioner Simmons.
Thank you. I just have one question, Dustin. The library, they have their own board. We don't normally get involved with that. Why do we want to now?
Thank you, Commissioner Simmons. So yes, the library will be very involved. They have their own board. Their board will make a recommendation to the City Commission. But because that is still a director underneath the city operations, I just wanted to be safe and make sure we're not violating any policies. But if
I just don't want to get too much into their business, you know what I mean? And so that does concern me that we would even, normally we take the recommendation of the board and then that moves forward. So I don't want to, we got enough problems. I don't want to take on another, I realize what you're saying, but it's new to us. I guess we've never done that before, right? Normally we just take the recommendation.
We have a commissioner that's a liaison with the library, and Commissioner Jordan served that role and done it very, very well, so.
Yeah, so I've been involved with the hiring of the previous director and the previous assistant director, and we put together a committee that did interviews. I honestly don't think anybody'd have an issue if Commissioner Simmons wanted to join on that committee with the interviews, and it would probably be welcome to get his feedback if he wants to do that. I don't really see any issue with it.
When we hired Mrs. Adams, I was a part of the group, and I gave her Mr. Scott and I gave her the tour of the city from top to bottom. So the City Commission was involved in that. So it's at your pleasure, Commissioner.
I just don't want them to get the wrong impression, I guess, that we're taking over there, so I would, myself, Commissioner Anderson, Commissioner George is already on that.
Yep,
would recommend that we-
I serve on that board, and yep, I've been part of the hirings, and like I said, we just put together a group for the interviews, and I really don't see it being an issue if you were part of that too as well, Commissioner Simmons. I see it being welcome to get your input, truly. I really don't see an issue there.
That's fine. That's
So we just pull that one off?
That's fine.
Okay.
Any questions on any of the other ones? With regard to the city administrator, my intention is that all commissioners are engaged in that completely. And and as we move forward with that, if we invite certain people within the community, if that'd be a discretion of the commissioners. That's been discussed as to, a commissioner can appoint somebody that's in the community that you think that they have value or work experience that might assist in that discussion. That will be up to you folks. We'll get to those details when we meet. Obviously, if the 5 commissioners are meeting, it is subject to open meeting law, so we'll have to be a part of that. So again, what we're looking for here is that you approve that the items that are here, excluding the library, if you so desire.
Make a motion to approve.
Thank you, Commissioner Simmons. Is there a second?
Second.
Commissioner Anderson seconds. Been moved and seconded to approve the commissioners as assigned to their respective departments and the interview processes, excluding the library. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you, Mr. Scott.
Thank you.
Item number 12 is a discussion on a public comment format at commission meetings. We witnessed this evening when we were talking about Sand Hills that often the public comes and wants to participate in that discussion. And the way that the format is set up, it isn't designed that way. And I think that that's a shortcoming. I really do. So with that, I have for your review, commissioners, rules for a resident comment period. You have it in front of you. I apologize, Commissioner George. I don't know if it was sent to you or not. But it's a very similar structure to what some of our neighboring cities are doing. And that's a 30-minute period that would start at 5 o'clock. From 5 o'clock to 5:30, it would be open for public comment. The commission won't be responding to those public comments because often the residents are asking for information or to talk about that. So the purpose of this is to have a dialogue with the commission about your thoughts and on any particular issue, but no action will be taken that evening because as normally the case when somebody from the public comes in, they're asking questions about any number of things, and we might not have that information to respond to it. So there's no actions going to be taking place, but obviously it all will be recorded and in the minutes, and then we respond to it as we move forward with regard to those public comments will become part of the agendas. Only one person to the podium at a time. It isn't going to be like 4 neighbors will come up. We want to be very specific with the resident's name and their address. It's very important that our public comment will be from West Fargo residents. We don't, and that's basically it. And Commissioner Wilson, you have a question?
So just to make sure, will we have to convene the meeting then at 5 o'clock so we're not violating any open meeting laws and things like that? So we'll have to start the meeting at 5 then?
If a quorum of the city commission is present, then you would open the meeting, you just wouldn't have any action. And I did want to note that because you're creating a public forum, and if somebody is not a resident, you can ask them to identify themselves as whether a resident or not, but a member of the public, because it's a public forum, could still come and speak.
we're going to try and keep it on West Fargo issues the best that we possibly can.
My only comment is the one where speakers must sign up in advance of the meeting. I feel like that could be challenging, or a lot of people may not realize that. How particular are people on that one? Because I guess I'm not a fan of that one. The rest of it I'm okay with.
Well, if we have 30 minutes and each person gets 2.5 minutes, and we got 30 people sign up, they're not going to make, they're not going to be able to be in 30 minutes. So
Sure, but what if there's like 5 people,
Yeah. So
or 2 people?
So what we need to do is be sure that they're aware of that. And if we have a list where, we can carry the list over. If there's 10 people that want to talk and there's only time for the 5, then we can prioritize those people to speak at the next commission meeting.
Sure, I'm wondering too, though, like if, let's say people signed up, maybe they'd have the priority, but if there's extra time, could people show up and just speak if there's extra time, even if they didn't sign up?
If there's extra time, yes.
Yes, okay.
We're not going to turn anybody away if there's extra time. That
Okay,
defeats the
perfect.
purpose
That's
of
my
having a
point. Yep.
public comment.
Hopefully, Mayor, we should know because you have to sign up in advance anyway, so we should have a good idea.
So that could very well be, Emily, I'm going to look at you. That could very well that we sit up at the table at 5 o'clock, or as people start to come in. Or are you looking for it a week in advance, Thursday in advance?
Yeah, just so we can give you guys a heads up.
We'll modify our website with all this information and all the data and trying to help you guide through it. We're not going to slam the door as we initiate this new program. The purpose of it is to have the public be able to have the initiative to have public comment, and for us to set up so many rules that it circumvents that is defeating its purpose, and it's not genuine.
Yeah, agreed. That sounds good. And then as far as the video available, would that be part of the city commission video, or would that be like a separate video for people that wanted to watch it later?
My intention would be a part of the video, part of the public record.
Okay, perfect. Thanks.
Do you want a motion on this then?
I sure do.
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve the new rules for the resident comment period.
Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Anderson seconds. Been moved and seconded to approve the rules for resident comment period as outlined in this evening. Is there any discussion?
Just one question
Please,
for
Commissioner.
clarification. When our city attorney said if there's a quorum, so what do you mean by
Well,
that?
it's public comment, so,
Okay.
if a commissioner, because of conflict, doesn't find value in that public comment, it's, we're not,
No, I just wanted to make sure.
yeah, we don't have to have a quorum to conduct business, because we're not conducting any business that
So are we responding to the comments, or are we just listening to the comments?
We just listen to the comments.
That's what I wanted to know.
And we put it on the agenda for future, or if there's very specific questions that the public's bringing forward, then we need to have ourselves or staff
Yeah, we'll be
directed
taking notes and all that
to
stuff,
address
right.
it. Yes, sir.
Okay.
This is very common in Fargo, Horace, Moorhead.
I just wanted to know
I think we're long
how we
overdue.
envision this to take place.
The purpose is to have the public have access to us with regard to concerns, regardless if it's their neighborhood or an overall city issue. I have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? We'll proceed to vote. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Mr. Scott, do you have anything for us in the city administrator's report?
Thank you, Commissioner President Dartis. Just to mention from the previous item on hiring department heads, as outlined in the memo, we are going to be moving to schedule interviews for our finance director, IT director, and HR director in the month of May. So, but with that, I'd just be here to answer any questions.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Scott? Any correspondence, Mr. Scott?
Well, we had one that was in the consent agenda, and I apologize for that. But no other correspondence, no.
Okay. I'm going to address another issue. We have some residents in the audience this evening. We talked about a request for a meeting that's coming to town, and they had made a financial request. The week's been the last 2 weeks have been extremely busy. Mrs. Berglund, could I please ask you to meet with the group? Lana Rockhow is here this evening. Kathy Schwan is here this evening. It's in regard to this civic event that they're advocating for. Please meet with them and have discussions with them. And I apologize again, ladies. Also, big news with Kathy Schwan and being the local rep for AARP and the state director for AARP and now a regional for AARP. And because of her leadership, there's a very large regional group coming to town in the very near future for AARP, and that's a direct credit to Mrs. Swan. So thank you for that. Commissioners, do you have any non-agenda items? Oh, Commissioner Anderson.
Yep. So I got an email from our city forester today about the Arbor Day celebration that's happening May 12th at 2 o'clock here at City Hall. There's going to be a little bit of an event here. There's going to be tree planting dedication. They are honoring Nancy and Gary Ostrom with a tree. So thought I'd share since I'm part of the forestry committee.
It's always a great event. Thank you, Commissioner Anderson. Any other commissioner have anything they'd like to bring forward this evening? Any department have anything you'd like to bring forward this evening? All right. Commissioner Simmons.
Motion to adjourn.
Commissioner Olson.
Second.
We stand adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
You got a cold over there, huh? I'm kind of sliding. I'm